Yeah, exactly. I'm only wanted by the FBI, so this is me fine.
Oh man, what's the reward?
Yeah, exactly. What's going on, guys? This is my second time in New York.
Oh, welcome.
And the first time at Comic-Con, so this is great.
Can you just introduce yourself?
Yes. My name is Jeremy Adams. I wrote Batman and Superman, The Battle of the Super Sons. That's the longest title ever. And yeah, I write animation and television and comic books, writer on The Flash, and there we go.
So we're going to start our way.
Yeah.
All right, for the first question.
Oh no, there was like it's like a blank page.
So, I'm sorry.
No, don't apologize. We're all friends here. It's all family.
We did it last night.
Yeah.
We can start that way.
Oh, no, just keep the rotation going.
Okay, we'll keep the rotation going then. So Jeremy, can you talk about the process of putting the story together?
Yeah.
Research you've done?
So when I was doing with Rick, who's the producer on this project, we had done a Lego Aquaman, I think it was at the time, and we got along really well. And he came and he goes, you know what I really like to do? I'd really like to do Super Sons, and he gave me one of the Tomasi trades, and I read it. I'm like, oh my gosh, we have to do this. This is years ago, mind you. And so he kept begging Warner Brothers, like, please let us do this, and they were like, no. And that went on for several years, and so Rick and I would just get together and we'd start talking about the story. You know, it'd be cool if Damian showed up at his school. Yeah, that would be cool. And then we would just talk for years and years and years. So, as destiny would have it, Warner Brothers went through several upheavals in the last several years, and there was like this weird window where Rick said, I'd really like to do the Super Sons I've been pitching, and they said, sure, why not? And we're like, oh my gosh, and we already had the story done. We had it done like to a T. I had that outlined into people probably within a day or two, and then we pitched it and everybody's like, oh, this is great, because we had thought about it for so much. We had thought about the adventures we wanted the boys to go on and how it adhered to kind of like the flavor of the comic books but also deviated, so it was kind of an original story more than anything. But yeah, I'm a huge comic nerd, obviously. I write the Flash comic for DC right now, and I have 2 kids of my own, and so there's a certain element of like, originally I wanted it to be, I'm going to ramble by the way, I'm on so many energy drinks you would not even believe it. Originally I had really like, I was like, I want it to be like rated G Iron Giant, you know, and they were like, no, it has to be PG-13. It's like, what are you doing? This is it. But then Jim Creek, who's one of the producers on it, said, no, Jeremy, it needs to be like an 80s PG movie, you know, that's like slightly inappropriate, you know? And then when I don't know if it was Rick or Jim came up with the Starro coming out of the mouth, and I remember like, oh, this is what this is. This is like Monster Squad type thing. And then I was able to kind of add the flourishes so it was a little less, you know, like Lois Lane is a little more blue, you know, and there's a lot of almost cussing, you know? So it just kind of fell into place. I mean, this is one of the few projects in my life, that and like Scooby Natural, the Scooby-Doo Supernatural crossover, that just came together really quick, and everybody seemed to gel on it, you know. And then the voice talent's ridiculous. Yeah. I don't know if I answered your question, but I'm sure.
No, that's
great.
A lot of the beginning of the movie, you know, we're seeing John's origin play out before our eyes. But when we meet Damian, he's kind of already established, but we see that there's something going on with him too, like the Teen Titans are rejecting him. I'd love you to speak to kind of Damian's state of mind, you know, how you kind of did a more subtle origin for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain element of like, we obviously focused on Jonathan more in this because he's being exposed to the world for the first time. Our dream would be that people would love the movie enough and buy it enough that they would let us do a second one so we can concentrate more on Damian. But within the context of Damian, you know, we're hinting at the fact that this kid was like raised to be an assassin, and then in the comics, you know, raised for other purposes that I don't want to spoil anything. But I ended up just thinking like this. I have friends like this, you know, they're like, they mean well. They're totally terrible people, you know. Obviously they don't kill people for a living, but like the cool thing about Damian is that he kind of put that past behind him, and with his father, he's trying to reach to be something better, something something more noble. And I think what's great about Jonathan is that he's raised in kind of this wonderfully hopeful environment that he can see that. He can see what Damian's trying to do, and so he kind of ignores the barbs and the batterings to the head, and it's just like finding. I think so much of this movie is about them finding a brotherhood with each other, you know. So I'm hoping for a second movie, just because I want to do more Damian. Yeah. Hi. Hi. Yeah, we had a lot of freedom, especially within the story. I think what we tried to maintain from what Jorge and Tomasi did was just that kind of innocent, hopeful adventure that was there. But we also wanted to do something unique from the comics in a way, and you know, retelling the origin and whatnot. So as far as creative freedom, we did have a lot. It's one of the rare times where it seemed like everybody understood what we were trying to do, and trying to make it this kind of hopeful adventure film. What was the other part of the question?
How is this going to be compared?
Oh, yeah. Well, one of the actually production-wise, it's different because this is the first time that Warner Brothers Animation has done a CG animated movie, and that was something that Rick, who we had done a lot of CG animated DC Lego stuff, he's like an expert at that stuff, and I wasn't totally sold on it. And then suddenly he showed me some stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, because the actual artistic expressions the kids can do and stuff like that is so much more, and it's just a unique style, and you kind of slip into it. You're like, at first you're like, oh, okay, great. And Matt, who's the director, they just did an incredible job. I'm lucky that everything I write gets plussed up by the people that are involved. And I don't know, when I saw it, because what you do as a writer in animation, you're like, here's the script, you know, and you do a bunch of notes, and then it disappears from your mind for 2 years, and then suddenly they're like, here's the movie, and you're like, great, you know, I wrote that, oh, awesome, you know. So it was neat. It's a little different just in terms of what we normally do in Warner Brothers Animation.
Alex Yard from the Goodman Project.
What's that?
Alex Yard from the Goodman Project.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Were there any challenges, unforeseen challenges, during the COVID, where you had to kind of adjust what your...
For what? For the middle part? Getting the what?
Well, for the production itself. Were there any hiccups as far as...
Well, yeah, because so I was on Supernatural, and then it ended right when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so this entire thing was done right at the beginning of COVID. So even like Jack Glazer, he was doing his recording in a closet, and he was like, "I'm sweating like crazy," and it was just like, "Yeah, keep going," you know. And it was really, really good. But like everything was kind of like we couldn't see each other, so it wasn't like walking down the hall and talking about it anymore. It was like turning it in and figuring out. You know, there was that ramp up of us trying to figure out Zoom, you know, and like I bought a giant green screen. I was like, well, I guess I'll be using this, you know. And so that was kind of unique in terms of animation, getting the pipeline ready to be able to do all that. Uh-oh, he just did something?
Yeah.
We'll move along. So, yeah.
All right, so, you know, as a comic book writer, you have an infinite amount of ways to piss people off.
Yes.
What's like the toughest challenge you had while obviously adapting this from the ongoing super series that was already going with that? Like, what's something that you changed from that?
I mean, it's hard because you can never really please everybody all the time. As a person who sent too many postcards in for the end of Angel, like I get it, like, you know, so you just try to do your best. And I love the characters and I love the vibe of the book, so it was just kind of us going like, let's just keep it's that hopeful nature of like Christopher Reeve Superman from the Donner film. You know, it's like we want to keep that in place in that adventure from like the 80s movies that I loved growing up and the way I lived growing up running around in the forest. Okay, wait, here's it. No, we're done?
Timed out.
All right, let me get a quick
guys. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll talk faster next time.
Yeah, my feelings are hurt.
pick it up from me. Yeah, you can.
I'm crushed. Okay, I just want you to know.